So, for fellow Demon Slayer fans, if you've been keeping up with a bunch of videos on Demon Slayer, you would come across a lot of videos basically debating if Demon Slayer is mid or not, or if it's overhyped. The biggest answer we would get is that, well, Demon Slayer is popular because of its animation, because overall it's mid. Whereas the animation is amazing, in my opinion. I don't believe it's solely due to the animation that Demon Slayer is so popular. I actually agree. The story in Demon Slayer is mid, but that's what makes Demon Slayer so popular. Like, I will also go on to say that Avatar The Last Airbender story is pretty mid. It's a mid story. It's about a boy that needs to learn 3 elements to defeat the Fire Lord. And I've definitely seen complaints of people being like, OMG, the Fire Lord Ozai is a one-note character. But what makes The Last Airbender so great and popular is the characters. And I believe that same goes for Demon Slayer, which I believe in current manga, especially shonen, the use of characters, especially side characters, have been neglected for a more complex story. And it's not even that the story has to be complex, it's that they start focusing too much on a story, and that comes at the cost of their characters. For a lot of shonen, start out well in painting both their main characters and side characters. A couple examples would be My Hero Academia. The fight with Achako versus Bakugo was amazing in painting Achako as a character, but then later on, pretty much the next season, especially in the Hero Exam arc, she's neglected, and it's like, well, wait, what happened to the Chako we seen in the Bakugo fight? The same could be stated in Naruto when it comes to Rock Lee. The introduction of Rock Lee, especially with his fight with Gaara, set him up hugely, but then after that, especially with the miraculous healing of his injury, which was just noted to us to be impossible to heal, along with the whole drunken fist, it was like, well, what happened to this character? And what happened was that they placed the story ahead of these characters for both Rock Lee and Ochako, but pretty much get sidelined because they start focusing on the story more, which is surrounded by the protagonist. So now these characters are at the behest of the story instead of the other way around. And now that they're at the behest of the story, it'll require them to do things their character wouldn't do. This is definitely seen with Ochako later on in My Hero Academia, where they have her play more of the love interest to Deku, which was something that Bakugo fight was literally meant to set her apart from. Whereas with Demon Slayer, they don't do that, and they won't do that in the future seasons. For in the manga, there's going to be points where Tanjiro is not involved in certain fights, and these fights are major. Because I already could see someone thinking, well, Naruto isn't involved in every fight in Naruto. But the truth of the matter is, like, a lot of the fights that Naruto isn't a part of, they're not really crucial to the story overall. Or more so, they serve as plot fillers. And the author's like, hey, it's a double win. Not only do we get rid of the villains that our protagonist is not going to have time to fight, but it also quote unquote fleshes out the side characters. As cool as the fight between Guy and Madara was, that was a plot filler fight. They needed time for Naruto and Sasuke to pretty much come back. And the thing is, the best fights, especially in Naruto, are the ones between characters that have been fleshed out and that has history. The top fights in Naruto, in my opinion, is the final Naruto and Sasuke fight, of course, but the best of the best fight for me is the one between Kakashi and Obito. I especially love the flashbacks. Oh gosh, that was real good. But to stay on track, that fight, both of those fights are very good because we know the characters and we know the history. We know how it led up to this fight, and you can see that history in the fight. Another example of this is The Last Airbender. The official Avatar The Last Airbender YouTube page 3 days ago posted this question of like which was the best fight. You would think people would choose the Aang versus Ozai because that was the most built up fight throughout the entire series that was built up. But no, it's the Agni Kai. And it's the Agni Kai because it features 2 characters that are very well fleshed out. And the other thing that like have great fights is if the characters pretty much contrast or even parallels one another. I would say these are the type of fights we see in Demon Slayer, especially with season's one final fight with Tanjiro versus that spider demon, where you both have them care for a family, whereas the spider demons like view a family as very toxic, whereas Tanjiro's view of family is very loving. And the biggest thing they do here is have Tanjiro realize that, oh snap, we parallel one another. So you get growth from the character Tanjiro through this parallel, which you just don't get in the Guy versus Madara fight. Yes, they may parallel one another in regards to like Madara is very gifted, whereas Guy wasn't very gifted. He had to train to get where he's at. But neither of them grow or get anything or learn anything about themselves from that fight. In Boruto, Guy doesn't even remember Madara's name. And yes, it was funny at the time, but it's like I feel like that just pointed out how random that fight was between the two of them. Because when you start to focus too much on the story, you then start to get plot holes. But the way they would fill these plot holes is to drastically change the characters, which right there is the issue. I believe that's why a lot of people will either drop shows or would really hate the ending of shows. When it came to like Game of Thrones ending, people were livid. Yeah, the story wasn't there at that point, but they were more so livid on how they treated the Game of Thrones characters. Same goes with Attack on Titan. The story again wasn't all the way there at the end, but people were more so livid on how they treated the characters at the end. This shows just how important these characters are in stories. I would say they're actually more important than the story itself, because that's what gains the fans and audience to watch and read these stories. They want characters they can relate and understand with. So yes, Demon Slayer's story is mid. But what makes it so great is their portrayal of these characters. The way they flesh out these characters and the way people can relate and understand to each and every one of these characters they highlight. But at the end of the day, no one can relate to the story itself. The story in Demon Slayer being that it's about a boy that wants to cure his demon sister and kill the demon lord. No one can relate to that, but they can relate to what these characters are going through. People can relate to the love Tanjiro has for his sister, even if they don't even have siblings themselves. People can relate to the demons' reasons on why they became demons. With the Spider Boy's parents' reasoning being that they wanted their sickly child to be able to be like the other children. Though I myself is not a parent, I understand why the parents chose to do that. So when you turn around and build up these characters, but then neglect them and use them to do things their characters wouldn't do, the audience is going to notice that, especially if they related to that character. Going back to My Hero Academia with Achako, you brought this character in who admitted to having a crush on Deku, but she states, look, I'm gonna need to put this crush to the side because I really need to focus on my studies to be able to provide for my family. But then literally next season or two, you turn around and have them be focused on their crush with Deku, even though you just set up this character to put that to the side. So all in all, you could have a story that is literally god tier, but if it has mid characters and the characters are just being dragged by the story, you are not going to have that many fans, or you're going to have fans drop it. Whereas if you have a mid story but amazing characters and they are well fleshed out and people can relate and understand them, they are going to be masterpieces. Yes, I said it. They're going to be masterpieces, which is the case for The Last Airbender, and yes, I'm giving it to Demon Slayer. And I believe it's great that the stories are mid in both Demon Slayer and The Last Airbender, because this allows many people to come into these shows. A lot of people that I bump into that have watched Demon Slayer or the movie are ones who've never watched anime before. And the same goes with The Last Airbender, especially when it aired on Netflix. a lot of the people watching the show never watched cartoons before or never really watched them. So not only do both of these shows solidify themselves as great anime or cartoon shows, but they solidify themselves as just a great show overall in general. So thank you for checking out this channel. This video was sparked by the recent drop of the trailer by Crunchyroll just a few hours ago, where Demon Slayer Season 3 has been announced to come out April 2023, and they'll actually be airing Season 2 at select movie theaters starting March 3rd. So there go a bit of anime news for you guys. Thank you so much for checking out my video. I hope you have a great day, week, month, year, decade. Bye!